The U.S. says it stands with the Philippines against what it calls dangerous and unlawful actions by China in the South China Sea. Beijing and Manila accuse each other of causing two ship collisions in a disputed part of those waters. Philippine authorities say a Chinese Coast Guard ship carried out dangerous blocking maneuvers and collided with a Philippine vessel trying to resupply another ship in the South Thomas Shoal. But China says it was the Philippines violating international maritime law and allegedly putting their ships in danger. Carrier strike groups from both the U.S. and China are operating in the South China Sea as tensions there remain high. Now, those collisions are just the latest in a string of recent clashes in the South China Sea. For more on the risks of military escalation there, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Stanford University security analyst Ray Powell.
China and the Philippines are accusing each other of collisions in a disputed area of the South China Sea. How dangerous was this incident?
Well, I think this one in particular, I think, was quite dangerous because of the size differential between the two ships involved, right? So it's not hard at all to envision a scenario in which the two ships collided and the little ship was essentially just run over. That came very close to happening, I think. But the boat's mission is to go to the other side of where the Coast Guard ship is, right? That its mission is to deliver the supplies to Second Thomas Shoal, and the Chinese ship is blocking the way. So the resupply boat has to go through somehow, and perhaps I'm sure that there are people on that little boat who are counting their blessings that things didn't go worse. And in some ways, I think you can also say something like this was inevitable. And we've been seeing how close these encounters have been. And piloting a ship on the water is not like driving a car on land. You can't just take a turn and know where you're going to end up all the time. There is a huge variance that happens, and you're not quite sure exactly. That's why you have to keep these distances. And as you've seen, they have not been keeping the distances.
We've seen incidents between China and the Philippines before. China has flashed a military-grade laser at the Philippines. It's fired a water cannon at Philippine vessels. But this incident, is this a sign of escalation in the region?
I think so certainly in effect, it is an escalation. I think that it's a difference in degree rather than kind, right? Because there have been the swarming, the near ramming, the blocking, all of these things have been happening. And so the fact that eventually it's going to end up with two ships or two vessels swapping paint, as it were, seems kind of inevitable. So I don't know that there is. I do think that China knows that the U.S. and its allies are distracted, and clearly the U.S. and its allies are distracted, right? I mean, there's a hot war going on in Europe, and there is a maelstrom going on in the Middle East. So yes, the U.S. and its allies are distracted. To what degree that plays into China's decision to go harder at this, I don't know.
Satellite imagery is now showing that the U.S. and China are operating carrier strike groups in the South China Sea. Is this another sign of the tensions that we're seeing in the South China Sea?
Well, I think mostly what it's a sign of is the fact that China is a fast-growing military power, which didn't used to have a carrier strike group. And the United States, of course, has operated carrier strike groups in the South China Sea for a very, very long time. So this kind of situation is going to happen more often. The South China Sea is going to be more militarized simply because China, as a growing military power, has a much, much larger navy than it has before. So the two navies are going to have to interact in the South China Sea on a semi-regular basis. I think that they probably will keep it professional. Neither one of them is looking for war, I don't think.
That was Ray Powell, a security analyst at Stanford University, speaking to our reporter Jaime Ocon.